back with another daily reflection on the Daily Vedantic. A few days ago, a friend sent me a video on Instagram of this little infant, maybe 6 months old, 7 months old. And they were fitting a tiny hearing aid for this adorable little baby. It was so cute. And then it became quite emotional because this 6-month-old baby goes through the discomfort of getting the hearing aid put on, squirming, and then they turn it on. And even at 6 months, the reaction was just so visceral and profound to watch, because he fixed his gaze at the mother's voice, realized that he was hearing his mother's voice for the first time. And then you see this 6-month-old infant begin to smile, and then smile bigger, and then smile bigger. Then you see the eyes start to water, and the smile becomes almost a restrained frown. And the lips start to tremble as the baby balances this incredible joy and smile with this overwhelming emotion. Within a few seconds, you see the whole body of this infant is trembling with overwhelming joy. And these tears are going down the infant's cheek while it can't stop looking at its mother. You see, this infant was experiencing the world. A few minutes prior, it thought it was experiencing everything there was to experience. And some technological innovation and the flip of a switch, the infant realized there was so much more to experience. As we have said in previous episodes, philosophy usually gets placed in this bucket of, well, that's an afterthought, with all the other important things I need to do each day. That's at best. At worst, it's seen as some irrelevant academic subject for people in an ivory tower to talk about. And that might be the case when you're studying the history of human ideas. But when you tap into truth, it's like gaining another sense. Within Advaita Vedanta, perhaps the central contribution of the philosophy is that we're given a body, a mind, and an intellect to navigate the world. The body we all know about, the mind, that's not going to be groundbreaking for any of us. We've talked about it on the podcast before. But the intellect, this is the newer equipment we haven't heard of before. If you've been listening to this podcast, or if you study Vedanta, you have. Sadly, it's one of the few philosophies that talks about this other inner equipment beyond the mind to guide us in our lives. And it's the most important equipment we have. It's defined as the capacity to see the end in the beginning. The mind is defined as the emotional side, the likes, dislikes, the preferences that we have. Preference for heat when it's cold, cold when it's hot. An emotion like fear, anger, desire. And the intellect is the capacity to see the end in the beginning, to discern which emotion is the most appropriate emotion for right now. And not just for right now, but for that end that I can already see in the beginning. It's the discernment that also guides the body. Maybe to do that extra rep at the gym. The last few episodes, I've been talking about the gym a lot, sorry. But that's such an immediate, apolitical type of example where the intellect gets involved and says, you know what, we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to go and push the body further than what the mind wants to do, where the mind wants to just call it a day, relax, not even go to the gym to begin with. But the intellect is that capacity to see the end in the beginning. If I make this choice, how does that play out? If I take this job or that job, if I choose to marry this person that, they're pretty good, how does that play out? An infantile intellect will say, well, who cares how it ends up? This is pretty good. What doesn't really matter which job. Let me just choose based on my emotional preference for the one that pays more right now. The one that might give me more of an ego boost when I tell people I'm a director at X, Y, or Z company. But you see, that capacity to see the end in the beginning is like a sixth sense. The ability to perceive through time for which action, decision, fork in the road is going to generate energy for myself and my community, and which is going to dissipate energy for myself and my community. That is the definition of right action and wrong action within Vedanta. And we have an episode dedicated to that very topic. But when you cultivate that extra perception, I hear it over and over and over again. And I have experienced this over and over and over again. Where you look back and you can't believe that you operated without this additional, invaluable perception. This extra sense. The cultivation of the intellect, the daily reflection of this philosophy. As Vivekananda so rightly said, it makes the Christian a better Christian, the Muslim a better Muslim, the Jew a better Jew. It is not this mutually exclusive philosophy from any other philosophy or even your approach each day to become the best startup founder, the best artist, the best parent. It doesn't take the place of anything within those disciplines. It makes you better at each of those. For some of you, it'll make you better at a few of those all at the same time. And a big reason is when you cultivate your intellect, that extra perception, you read or you listen to the words of the masters, you read the gospel, and you read a parable from Christ, and it's like you can finally hear it for the first time. And once you start to experience it, you never have to go back. It's truly a sixth sense. That's what hangs in the balance with a deliberate philosophical approach to life in just a few minutes of daily reflection. This has been another episode of the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the Daily Vedantic. This reflection is part of a free repeating 2-year course in Advaita Vedanta. Rooted in the timeless wisdom of the Upanishads, arguably the oldest philosophical texts on earth, you can begin with episode 1, which gives the 15-minute overview of the whole philosophy of Vedanta, or you can join the journey with any episode at any point. But the critical aspect of this course, of understanding and mastering anything, is to study and reflect, even for 10 to 15 minutes on the timeless each day, preferably at the start of your day. As is said in this philosophy, reflection is 100,000 times as powerful as listening. So listen, journal, sit with,
discuss these concepts, or ask questions at thedailyvedantic.com with our AI-powered chatbot informed by about 700 episodes here, as regularly as one can if you want to see clarity and peace almost effortlessly unfold in your daily life. And if it doesn't result in a near immediate increase in clarity and peace, then toss aside and feel free to never listen again. One of the things that you might notice is after 7 or 8 days in a row, this doesn't feel like a discipline. This feels like a visit with a best friend to dive into the timeless with daily reflection. Within a few days, it becomes one of your favorite parts of the day. You can also find out more, including news about in-person events in Los Angeles and beyond, at the Daily Vedantic on Instagram or through our weekly newsletter at thedailyvedantic.com. Additionally, check out the links in our show notes for more resources like the books that are mentioned most frequently in the episodes, including Vedanta Treatise, perhaps the simplest and most straightforward read on this philosophy I've ever come across. Until next time, and from the entire team that works on the Daily Vedantic project, thanks for listening.